Stripe Radar explained how automatic fraud filters can quietly affect your sales and payouts. A silent system is screening every card that hits your storefront. Understanding it helps you tell a real risk issue from a false alarm. You post a link, a follower taps it, they reach checkout. They enter a card. And somewhere in that half second before payment successful appears, an entire risk scoring system has already run. Stripe calls it Radar, and it evaluates practically every transaction flowing through Stripe-powered checkouts, including the one on your store fan page. Most of the time it's invisible. Cards clear, buyers get their download, everyone moves on. But every so often a legitimate sale gets declined, and creators panic, assuming their store is broken or they've lost a customer for good. Usually neither is true. Radar is making a real-time, probabilistic guess about risk on every charge, with no human in the loop. Understanding roughly how it thinks turns a scary, payment failed message into something you can read and resolve. What Radar actually is. Radar is Stripe's built-in fraud detection layer, trained on patterns across the millions of businesses that process payments through Stripe. Every time a card is submitted, Radar runs it through a machine learning model in a fraction of a second, returns a risk score, and decides whether to allow the charge, block it, or send it into extra verification. It isn't a separate product you install. If you're accepting payments through a Stripe-connected checkout, Radar is already running underneath it, quietly protecting both you and your buyers from stolen cards and account takeovers. For a creator storefront, this matters more than it seems. Digital products, courses, and coaching calls attract card testing. Someone runs stolen card numbers through checkouts to see which still work, then uses the good ones elsewhere. Radar exists to catch that before it costs you a chargeback. The trade-off: a system tuned for bad actors will occasionally flag a legitimate buyer too. The signals Radar is actually looking at. Radar doesn't just check whether a card number is valid. That's table stakes. It weighs dozens of contextual signals together, and no single one triggers a decline on its own. Think of it less like a red flag and more like a weighted average of everything unusual about a transaction. None of these signals is damning on its own. Plenty of honest buyers use VPNs, shop from abroad while traveling, or use a new card because their old one expired. Radar weighs the combination, and Stripe continuously retrains the model on outcomes across its network, which is why the risky threshold shifts slightly over time, even if your storefront hasn't changed at all. The key distinction. A Radar decline means this pattern statistically resembles fraud, not "we have proven this is fraud." Treat it as a probability, not a verdict, for you and for the buyer emailing you confused about why their card didn't go through. Fraud protection versus a genuine processing problem. The hardest part for creators is telling these two situations apart, because from the outside they look identical. A customer says, "My payment didn't go through." Here's the practical difference. A real processing problem is usually about your storefront setup, an expired Stripe connection, a currency mismatch, or a broken checkout field. A Radar-driven decline is about that specific transaction looking statistically unusual, and it typically only affects one buyer at a time rather than everyone visiting your page. Multiple buyers, different cards, all failing at checkout. Suspect a setup issue? Check your Stripe connection first. One buyer, one attempt, everyone else checking out fine. That's almost always Radar scoring that transaction, not a broken store. A charge shows pending or disappears on the buyer's end. Usually their bank's authorization hold, not a Stripe decline. Your dashboard shows blocked or flagged rather than simply failed. That's Radar language specifically, not a generic error. This distinction is exactly why it pays to know your tools before a customer messages you in a panic. When you create your store on store.fan and connect Stripe, Checkout runs on Stripe's infrastructure directly, so Radar's protections are already active on every sale without you configuring anything. That's good news. You're covered against stolen card fraud from day one. It also means an occasional decline isn't a store.fan bug to chase down. It's the same system every Stripe-powered business lives with, working as designed. What actually happens when a payout gets affected? It's worth separating two things creators sometimes lump together: a single decline charge at checkout, and a broader payout hold on your account. A declined charge is routine and instant. The buyer sees an error and typically retries, often successfully, sometimes with a different card. A payout hold is rarer and more serious. It happens when Stripe's risk systems flag your account overall, often triggered by a spike in chargebacks, a sudden jump in volume that doesn't match your history, or multiple disputes in a short window. Because money on store.fan goes straight to your own connected Stripe or PayPal account rather than sitting in a platform wallet, any hold or review is between you and your payment processor directly, using the same tools every Stripe merchant has: verification documents, dispute responses, account history. It's rarely instant, but it's also rarely permanent, and it's almost always resolved by responding promptly rather than waiting it out. Check your Stripe dashboard for any request for identity or business verification documents. Review recent disputes or chargebacks. A cluster is the most common payout hold trigger. Confirm your account details match what you're actually selling. Respond to any Stripe request quickly. Holds tied to unanswered requests often resolve the moment you reply. If it's unclear, have support. Contact support for next steps. What you can actually control at checkout. You can't override Radar's scoring on a specific transaction. That's by design, since a seller-side override would defeat the purpose of independent fraud detection. But you do have real influence over how often legitimate buyers get caught in the net, mostly by keeping your storefront clean and predictable. Keep pricing and descriptions accurate. Mismatches raise scrutiny on your account. Avoid checkout gimmicks that mimic fraud patterns, like countdowns that push buyers into hurried repeat attempts. Use accurate checkout fields. A real email gives Radar and you more legitimate signal to work with. If a payment fails, suggest a simple retry, a different card, or disabling a VPN. Watch your dispute rate over time. A rising trend is the biggest driver of account-level scrutiny. Radar isn't trying to stop your sale. It's trying to stop the sale that isn't really yours to make. Why this is worth understanding before it happens to you. Most creators never think about fraud filters until a real customer, someone who wanted the product, money ready to spend, gets bounced at checkout for no obvious reason. That's uncomfortable, but it's a sign the system protecting your business is working, even when it occasionally overcorrects. A checkout with no fraud screening would expose you to card testing, chargebacks, and account problems that can actually shut a store down. A rare false positive is a much smaller cost than that. This is also a reminder that the payment plumbing behind your store matters as much as the design in front of it. A polished page with an unprotected checkout underneath just makes disappointed followers. Every plan on store.fan connects you directly to Stripe or PayPal, so payments run on infrastructure built for exactly this. See it in action with a live example store, and check plans ranging from free to pro with zero platform fees. The bottom line: Radar is not a glitch in your storefront. It's a fraud detection layer running quietly under every Stripe-powered checkout, weighing card history, device signals, location, and behavior to catch sales that were never going to be legitimate. Most buyers will never notice it exists. The rare one who gets an unexpected decline usually just needs a retry or a different card, not a support ticket about your store being broken. Knowing the difference between fraud protection doing its job and an actual processing issue means you can respond to a confused buyer with confidence and stay focused on what actually grows revenue. a clear offer, a frictionless page, and a checkout you can trust to just work. Key takeaways. Radar scores every transaction using signals like card history, device fingerprint, IP location, and purchase velocity, not just the card number itself. A decline is a risk-based guess, not proof of fraud. False positives happen most with new cards, VPNs, mismatched addresses, and rapid repeat attempts. Most radar friction is a one-time card decline at checkout, not a delayed payout. Payout holds are a separate, less common process. Reduce false declines by keeping checkout fields accurate, avoiding urgency gimmicks that mimic fraud patterns, and asking buyers to retry with a different card. Repeated flags on your account are worth investigating. They can mean card testing, rising chargebacks, or a description mismatch. Start your Creator Store free at store.fan.